Welcome. You are listening to the Play Big Queen podcast. This is for you if you are a woman who is an entrepreneur, business owner, professional, leader, or someone who is deeply committed to personal growth, self-improvement, transformation, and living authentically. This is especially for you if you have an invisible disability, whether you are diagnosed, undiagnosed, self-diagnosed, or late diagnosed, and you are working on reclaiming your neurodivergent identity, rebuilding confidence, learning what works for your unique brilliance while breaking free from small people-pleasing conditioning. If you are a visionary change maker interested in advancing your leadership and creating success on your terms, and you want to leave a legacy, if you are navigating disability or neurodiversity as an individual or as an ally, and you are looking for a supportive and inclusive environment to thrive, then this is for you. I am your hostess, Kate Bailey. I am the Play Big Queen. My name is my title and a command for all women. Play Big Queen. I invite you to claim this title for yourself and coronate your Play Big self too, if it serves you. I am a business and embodiment mentor working with women who are ready to rise the fuck up and be your bold, beautiful, sexy ass self, start and grow your big, bold vision, and claim that you too get to have your boldest desires. I am the creatrix of Kate Bailey LLC, which provides coaching services, educational courses, products, and experiences that promote success in neurodiversity advocacy, women's empowerment, embodiment, entrepreneurship, and business to serve women on their transformational journey. To learn more about my company offerings and to get on my email list, go to xxxkatebailey.com. If you would like to learn more about my work, my personal values, my mission, and my community, make sure you catch the last 5 minutes of this episode to go deeper and learn so much more. On this podcast, sometimes we will have guests. Sometimes I'll do solo episodes, but every single time you listen, you will expand. So get ready. It's a new era for women on the Play Big path. Long may we reign. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Play Big Queen podcast, where we speak truth, live boldly, and make space for nuance, especially when it's unfucking comfortable. I am your host, Kate Bailey, and today this episode, like me, is going to be a little different. This is the autism episode. It's longer than usual. It's also more personal. This episode is my response to the recent viral moment surrounding RFK Jr.'s ignorant and harmful remarks about autism. Over 3.4 thousand people shared my original Facebook post, and the conversation has only deepened since. So today I want to bring together everything that I've shared, the science, the harm, the rhetoric, the history, and the truth, all in one space. Whether you're new to this conversation or you've been in it for years, I invite you to listen with your whole self, because this is about more than RFK. This is about how we treat autistic people. It's about ableism, science, and the fight for dignity. In honor of Autism Acceptance Month, let's fucking go. I want to spell this out at the top of the episode because I think people don't fully understand. This isn't just about RFK Jr. RFK is just the ignition point. This is about what his comments represent. When I first wrote that post, which has now been shared over 3.4 thousand times, I wasn't trying to go viral. I was trying to name a harm. And I said what so many of us have been feeling for years, that autistic people deserve better than being used for political or corporate gain. Thousands of people agreed because we see what is happening. We see the weaponization of bad science. We see the ableism in disguise, and we are tired. This conversation exploded because it tapped into something real, and I refuse to be polite about it. I am in my say the quiet part out loud era, and to be honest, I don't think I'm ever going back. I am staunchly in my advocacy era. I do not owe it to anyone to be a nice girl right now or ever, and I am here to center the people who have not been on the receiving end of nice from society for their whole lives. Let's cut through the noise and go right to what decades of research tells us. Autism is genetic. That is not my opinion. It is the consensus of major peer-reviewed research, including a 2020 study published in Cell by the Autism Sequencing Consortium. This study analyzed over 35,000 DNA samples, nearly 12,000 from autistic individuals, and identified 102 genes associated with autism spectrum disorder. Since then, that number has grown to over 200 genes, and it will probably grow exponentially beyond that. We're talking about genes like CHD8, SHANK3, and SCN2A, genes that influence brain development, neuron connectivity, and sensory processing. These genetic traits are naturally occurring. They are not caused by vaccines. They are not caused by red Fruit Loops, and they are not caused by environmental toxins. These mutations occur during early development, often in utero, and they are part of a natural variation in human neurobiology. So when RFK Jr says things like, these kids were fine until they regressed into autism at age 2, that's not science, that's pseudoscience, and it's dangerous. Yes, absolutely. Some people with autism experience what they are calling regression or comorbidities, and that's real, and I honor that. And again, I want you to take this whole episode knowing that I am not a geneticist, I am not a therapist, I have worked in medical, I do have experience working with special needs populations. I've also been following epigenetics in scientific journals as it relates to neurodevelopment since the early 2000s. I have personal and professional experience with this and feel really equipped to hold this conversation and all the nuance that goes with it. And when we talk about regression, I've seen it in families I've worked with, I've witnessed it as a first responder in homes, and I live with it in my own family. This kind of shifting gene expression and symptom presentation doesn't only happen with autism. It happens in other neurotypes. We see it especially with ADHD, for example, when women start to enter perimenopause, they have hormonal shifts that can exacerbate their symptoms dramatically. That's because estrogen plays a key role in dopamine regulation, and dopamine is central to executive function, focus, motivation, emotional regulation, all of which are already impacted in ADHD. So when estrogen levels fluctuate during perimenopause, ADHD symptoms can worsen exponentially. Women who were managing just fine for most of their lives might suddenly experience a regression, brain fog, disorganization, memory lapses, emotional volatility, and they feel like they are falling apart. But again, this doesn't mean that their ADHD is caused by their environment or can be cured. The neurotype was always there. The shift in expression is what changes. And of course, we should be investing in resources and supportive therapies that help us shift into a healthier genetic expression to relieve some of these symptoms that become more pronounced. But again, just like with autism, we need to understand that expression is very dynamic. It's context dependent, and it's influenced by internal and external factors. But that doesn't mean that the neurodivergence itself is new, unnatural, or something to be fixed or cured. The takeaway here is that human brains are incredibly complex. Hormones matter, environment matters, but our differences are not pathologies. They are variations, and those variations deserve understanding and not fear-mongering. Regression or exacerbation of symptoms from the different body systems like endocrine system or immune system does not disprove the genetic basis of autism. For some people, those traits show up more clearly after a major medical event like a viral infection or even after receiving a vaccine. That can be a trigger, but it's not the cause. And vaccines, for those who need the reminder, are often made from inactivated or dead forms of a virus. They stimulate the immune system so that your body can learn how to fight the real thing without the dangerous effects of getting the full-blown illness. And let's be real, vaccines are a whole other freaking topic, but it's important to say this clearly. The undesired effects of vaccines, when they do happen, are significantly less common and less severe than the consequences of the illness that they protect against. That is not propaganda, that is public health data. And again, even if a person experiences regression after a major immune event, that doesn't mean that the virus or the vaccine caused their neurodivergence. It means that it may have impacted the timing or the intensity of how their existing neurotype was expressed. And there's a huge difference between a trigger and a cause, and we do very real harm when we conflate the two. Gene expression and gene expression changes can be triggered by an exhaustive list of variables, including diet, nutrition, stress, trauma, illness, infection, exposure to specific chemicals or toxins, hormonal changes, sleep, physical activity, medications, vitamins, social environments, relationships can even change gene expression. Even ancestral events, like whether your grandparents lived through famine or war, can change how you are genetically expressed. We don't fully understand how all of these infinite and finite different factors interact, overlap, or pass down from one generation to the next. And we definitely can't isolate every possible combination of influences that might affect a person's development over their lifetime. And for that reason, that is why it's scientifically irresponsible to claim that something like autism can be pinned down to one broad environmental cause like toxins. And it's not accurate. It's like an oversimplification to say that epigenetics is the answer to supporting autistic people. The truth is, people drop the word epigenetics like they understand it or like it's a simple miracle solution to providing assistance to people or autistic people or people with challenges, when autism has a well-documented and strong genetic basis. And that is the context that is critical to keep in mind when we're talking about epigenetics. Especially when RFK uses the toxin scare tactic and starts throwing around vague language like toxins without ever naming what he means. So let me ask, from someone who actually understands and has been trained in hazardous materials, like which toxin is he talking about? What's the LC50? What's the IDLH? What's our exposure limit? What's the mechanism of action? And where is your data? Because there's toxins and hazmats in everything. Like bananas are naturally radioactive, for God's sake. That doesn't make them dangerous. And when people like RFK use the word toxin like a boogeyman to scare parents, they're not educating, they're manipulating. They prey on fear and uncertainty, especially in families who are so desperate for support, and wind up pedestalizing RFK because they're too exhausted to learn who else is talking about autism from a scientific perspective, like Kimberly Kitzrow on Instagram. Her science is very real and specific. But worse, when RFK shows up with this uncertainty and vagueness and plucks all the right pain points without any of the specific science, he redirects the conversation away from what autistic people actually need: support, access, inclusion, respect. I've heard a lot of people talk about RFK and they're like, well, he's shining a light on it now, so now we're going to get all the support. That's not what's going to happen here. And it really makes me mad because there are so many people who need and deserve support. I mean, think about it. Even if I did think autism was a disease, which I don't, what he's saying is it could be cured by September, or that he's going to have the research by September. Take diabetes type 1, right? Insulin-dependent diabetes. This is something that's specific. We know a lot about it, and we still don't have a cure for it. The science is much more exact than trying to pin down autism. If he told us that we were going to have a cure by September for type 1 diabetes, I would not believe it. He is not qualified to undermine the amount of research and support that has gone into this field already, and then to say that you can have a cure for it by September, or the information needed to get the cure by September. And when he says stuff like that, he's really taking away from what autistic people need, which is therapies that support, but still understand that when an autistic person is at their healthiest, they will still be neurodivergent, and they still will not fit into the status quo. They will be different, not less. And this is the part where I want to talk about where eugenics come into play. And I know this might seem unfathomable or out there. And I think a lot of people don't want to believe it when it comes to RFK because they think his intentions are so good. But good intentions do not prevent harm. And they definitely don't prevent him from crossing into ableist, harmful, and yes, eugenic territory. What RFK is promoting, whether he knows it or not, deeply echoes the language of eugenics. And my woo-woo spiritual girlies listening know this, right? Language, dialect, the words we choose, they shape our reality, whether we know what we are saying or not. Eugenics is the belief that some traits, and by extension some people, are less worthy of existence. It's about fixing humanity by eliminating what society deems undesirable. Whether it's his intention or not, he still gets to be held accountable for saying that he's trying to eliminate autism from the gene pool, either through environmental control or genetic intervention. Either way, it's textbook eugenics, whether RFK means it or not. Like, let's leave space for him not to be pedestalized as this like alternative health guru. Like, the guy stumbled upon a eugenic message and said it to the masses. So I need to say this, and I need to say it loudly. Autistic people are not a problem to solve. They are people. Full stop. They write poetry, they go on dates, they pay taxes, they build companies, they use the toilet by themselves, and those who don't, they are still not less than. And when they have therapies that help them with any of those things, they are still autistic. RFK's rhetoric reduces them to caricatures who are incapable, broken, tragic, and burdensome. And that's not only false, it's cruel. And myself and thousands of other people watching felt the truth of his harm long before he made his speech, and we refused to let it stand. And on the epigenetic front, I want to clear up a few things because I mentioned in my original posts, and a lot of people responded with curiosity or confusion. Epigenetics is the study of how environment and behavior can influence gene expression without changing the DNA itself. Think of it like one of those light dimmer switches. It's not an on-off switch, it's a dimmer switch. Yes, epigenetics is real. Yes, it matters. No, it does not cure or cause autism. Environmental factors might impact how strongly certain genes are expressed, but they do not create autism out of thin air. People are born autistic. Expression may vary, but the neurotype is already there. To misuse epigenetics as a curing tool without understanding just how complex and poorly understood this field still is, this is not advocacy. This is a dangerous oversimplification. And worse, it's being used as a rhetorical device to justify prevention, not support. That's not science, that's eugenics in disguise. It's cruel, it's irresponsible, and so many people get triggered and jump to defend RFK because he's been crowned this like alternative health king with some JFK swagger, but he's not. He's like really not at all. And while we're here on alternative medicine, let's talk about that because I'm so for alternative medicine. And it's important to know that people in alternative and non-Western medicine absolutely engage with science. They just leverage it differently. It's rooted in cultural knowledge with embodied wisdom and intergenerational validation, and that is valid. But in no epistemological system has RFK been making any damn sense. None. Even if you strip away every political layer and just look at the facts, a completely unbiased, unemotional look at his work in the area of autism, he has had a net negative impact on the autistic community. That's what happens when you spread false causation theories, frame autism as a tragedy, and offer zero viable solutions. And when people scoff at the word pseudoscience and still defend RFK in the same breath, of course, it makes me want to eye roll because, of course, the autism community is so open to alternative methods of support, like whatever works for our individual kids, right? We are not anti-exploration, but let's not pretend that some of that exploration isn't coming from a place of survival, from us spiraling, from us being desperate because we don't have a system that actually supports us. And, for my audience members who are in the coaching industry, like we see this in the coaching industry too, right? People are desperate to make money on their own terms, and they're told that they didn't manifest hard enough because they forgot to journal their desires like 20 times a day. Then someone comes along and sells the perfect prompt. And of course, you are so ready and you are so primed to buy in and buy that prompt because it feels like that is going to be the missing piece because you so badly want it to be the missing piece. But it's not. The problem isn't that you're not journaling. The problem is that the system is stacked against you and someone is profiting off your hope and you don't know the right actions to take. That is what RFK is doing. He sees a crisis and he's starting to monetize it. He's not solving it. And when we talk about the crisis, another piece that keeps coming up is people keep saying, but I don't understand. What's the harm in removing toxins to help cure autism? And it's important to say this clearly, right? Because we already talked about why the word cure doesn't really fit because it's genetic. And then when he says removing toxins, he's just speaking generally. There's a big difference between supporting therapies that honor an autistic person's lived experience and try to improve their lived experience versus trying to cure what is in fact genetic and a natural lifelong neurodevelopmental variation. Autism is not a problem to fix. And you can think of it like Mac and PC computers, right? This is a common analogy a lot of people use in advocacy. Autistic people themselves find it very helpful to use this analogy. Mac and PC computers. Can either computer get a virus or a bug? Sure, absolutely. But when you clear the glitch, you're still going to have a Mac. It's just a different operating system. It's not less valuable. It's just different. And yes, that's a nod to Apple's Think Different tagline. But I think it's also important when we're talking about what's the harm in trying to get rid of general toxins. We have to talk about food here too, because this is a lot of people cheering on the remove the toxins rhetoric comments are also people who are very smart. And they know that our food system is making us sick and our food system is problematic. And I am so with you on this, right? America's food system, especially the whole trope of the fat American. It's because our food system is garbage. And that's not an autism specific issue. That is a deeply systemic one. And this food issue is a systemic issue rooted in capitalism and colonization. In capitalism, profit is prioritized over nourishment. And when land is colonized, people are separated from their land, their culture, and their ancestral foodways that are critical to their health and the healthy expression of their DNA, right? Especially my Italian family members experience this. They can have all the cakes and whatever sweets in the world when it's made from fresh ingredients from Italy. When we start eating that shit over here, we blow up like a balloon, right? People under colonization and post-colonial systems are pushed to consume or sell products instead of actual, real food. And that disruption of nourishment contributes to disease and imbalance across generations. If you'd like to learn more about that, Rupa Maria, she wrote the book Inflamed, is a really great resource on this. But removing harmful chemicals from our food and water would benefit everyone, right? Everyone would experience with better food and shit removed from our foods. We would all experience improved mood, reduced inflammation, and nervous system regulation. These would all lead to massive shifts in how people feel and function. But it wouldn't cure autism because autism isn't an illness. Again, it's not like type 1 diabetes, which involves a measurable dysfunction in insulin production. Autism is a different operating system altogether with unique ways of processing sensory and cognitive information. And when someone with lived experience seeks out therapies that support their own sensory needs or learning style, that's empowerment, right? Like diet is so important to me as someone who identifies as ADHD and is diagnosed. There have been studies that have linked people with ADHD to a deficiency in magnesium. I eat extra cashews, I get extra magnesium. My gut health gets so much better. My gut health gets better. I think more clearly. I start making super informative podcasts like this instead of wandering around in a brain fog, right? Yes, these supportive things are so needed across the neurotype spectrum. But when a political figure like RFK with money and influence and access promotes the idea that autism should be erased or links it to fear-based narratives about vaccines or general boogeyman toxins that are not specific, that is not empowerment. That again is eugenics. That is exploiting people's fear and capitalizing on ableism. And autistic people, we've been saying this for decades, right? We don't want a cure. We want acceptance, support, autonomy, and accommodations. And yes, some autistic folks internalize ableism and say that they wish that they weren't autistic. And that makes total sense. I've heard it from so many different people. I wish I was quote unquote normal. I wish I could just do it like everybody else. I experienced that in school, not being able to attend school without medications that push my body beyond its limits so I can process and stay in classes. It's exhausting. And in an ableist society, it's so natural to want to conform in order to survive. And it's not so dissimilar from the experience of being a woman, right? Like many women have internalized misogyny that tells us we have to be skinny, we have to be smooth, soft-spoken, and sexually available in order to be valuable. We know that that voice of internalized misogyny isn't telling the truth, but it still shapes how we feel about ourselves. Autistic people, myself included, many people have internalized ableism where we're told we must behave, speak, move, process, work, and be productive in the same way as neurotypical people to be seen as worthy or valuable or contributing to society. But the real harm is not autism. It is a society that spends its resources trying to make us disappear instead of trying to acknowledge, accept, and understand us and build support structures so we can thrive. And if you are truly curious about this, explore more, right? Go into Google, go into the Google machine, or I don't know, use another search engine if Google's not your thing right now. But no matter where an autistic person falls on the spectrum, if you are the person themselves or you're their caretaker, go and look at the discourse that's deconstructing the ableist narrative and centering autistic people. Because instead of chasing phantom causes, we should be asking better questions that actually center autism. We should be asking, what do autistic people need? How can we build systems of care that respect their neurotype? How do we fight for education, housing, healthcare, and community support? How do we celebrate neurodivergent brilliance in leadership, art, and innovation? Because no child should grow up believing they're broken, and no family should be told their child is a tragedy. And no family with high support needs should be denied a system that gives them exactly what they need. And no political figure should get to build a platform by dehumanizing an entire community. Healthcare is a crisis. Access to medicine and supportive therapies is a crisis. Quality food is a crisis. Racism is a crisis. Ableism is a crisis. Autism, not a crisis. And to get up there and to tell the public that it is, that is morally reprehensible, scientifically irresponsible, and bankrupt of actual humanity. One of my most heartbreaking cases as an EMT was a family raising their severely autistic child in a house with soaking wet carpets throughout because they had a flood and they couldn't afford to fix it, clean it up, or get temporary housing while their claim was processing. They also didn't want to disrupt their child's routine. So the whole family lived in the house with damp and wet carpets, and they didn't want to leave. And as someone whose house was devastated in Hurricane Sandy, I can say that I understand that mentality. Life, emergent events, they happen on top of needing support for a child with autism who may be declining in their health. And it is fucking heartbreaking. I've been in over 20,000 homes as a first responder. I've seen how high support needs intersect with race, poverty, and systemic failure. I know what it sounds like, what it smells like, and what it feels like. I've taught emergency response teams how to better support autistic individuals during crisis calls where the potential for violence is high. Autism is in my family, it's in my community, and I've seen the harm that shame-based interventions cause. I've seen how children absorb the message that they need to be fixed and how that damage ripples across a lifetime. I am not being too sensitive or overly emotional. I am clear, informed, and fierce. Because this conversation is about the people I love. It's about the people I am. And it's about the people I am in service to, even if I don't share the exact challenges or their lived experiences. So let's stop centering RFK. Let's stop debating the worth of autistic lives. Let's stop pretending both things can't be true at the same time. That someone might need support and still be autistic. That autism is not something to cure. Let's start listening, let's start supporting, and let's start building the world we actually want to live in. One where difference is not feared, one where disability is not pathology, but different abilities are supported, and the desires of individuals who want to expand their abilities are met with innovation, with them leading and consenting. One where autistic people are seen, heard, and valued, not erased. And if this episode resonated, please share it. I put a lot of work in putting it together and a lifetime of experiences and lessons in order to be able to speak the way I'm speaking about it today. Leave a review, forward it to someone who needs to hear this, and most importantly, listen to autistic voices, not political opportunists. It's Autism Acceptance Month. Let's fucking act like it. I am signing off with love, rage, and fierce advocacy. We'll talk more next week. Okay, that's it for this episode of the Play Big Queen podcast. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me. As always, eat the fruit, spit out the seeds, take what nourished you, keep what resonated for you, and leave the rest, because ultimately, you know best. This episode is over until next time, but we can keep this thing going. Go to xxxkatebailey.com, scroll to the bottom where it says join our community, and get on the email list to get all the juicy details about all my offerings and where Play Big Queens play together online, on social media, and in person. We've got a tight community of women claiming their boldest desires, celebrating wins, playing all out, fiercely standing for each other, and going higher together. Go to xxxkatebailey.com, put in your email address, and confirm your subscription. Once you're in, you'll get all the juicy guides, tips, and inspirations, and you get notified first about all the offers we have for all the big stuff we're doing over here. Go to xxxkatebailey.com to stay in the loop. That's xxxkatebailey.com. If you like what you heard in this podcast, subscribe, share it with your friends. And if you got something from this, I would appreciate some reviews and ratings. When you take the time to review the podcast, it helps our podcast get out to more women who need it. If you haven't already, head over to iTunes and Spotify and show Play Big Queen some love. Also, I want you to know that my door is always open, and I will always make space for you to be heard and to honor your experience. The views expressed in this podcast are through the lens of my personal identity and my own lived experience. I am a European mix, Mediterranean mutt who is an Italian, Sicilian, cis heterosexual woman born in New York, experiencing the world in a white body as a multiply neurodivergent who lives in a neurodiverse and racially blended family. And like everyone else, my one single perspective comes with its own limitations. I have done personal and professional work around anti-racism, diversity, equity, equality, and inclusion. I am not a therapist or doctor, and any coaching or advice cannot take the place of professional medical, mental health, or healing help. However, that being said, what happens in my work is often a very powerful, additional, supplemental, or alternative way to heal around identity work, mindset, and emotional wellness. Although I am not a licensed therapist, it is worth noting that in addition to being a mentor, I am trained and certified in emergency medicine and response. I have rendered care to over 20,000 patients in the course of my career. I have taught over 15,000 students, many of which had learning disabilities that were undiagnosed and came from diverse cultural backgrounds. I was also a private health college adjunct professor who was responsible for training medical professionals on how to respond to trauma and behavioral emergencies. If you approach me with any concern, you will be met with professionalism, compassion, tact, understanding, support, and a readiness and a willingness to advocate for your needs. That being said, sometimes I just get it wrong. I am a human being on my own growth journey after all. When I mess up, I'm always available for a courageous and crucial conversation that makes way for growth and healing. Your experience and voice matters to me. I sincerely welcome any feedback you feel called to share. You can email your comments or concerns to info@playbigqueen.com, knowing that I am open to having any and all crucial conversations needed. Okay, remember, you are brilliant. Celebrate yourself, value your own unique way, and honor your own timing, because you can totally create a life and business that feels good and is successful on your terms. Remember to release expectations of what you think your play big process should look like, and be willing to do the work that needs to be done to play big. But most of all, when you come face to face with your boldest desires, remember to trust yourself and play big, queen. Hi, queen. I see you're in it for the long game. If you reach this part of the podcast episode, it means you're interested in learning more about my work, my values, my mission, and my community. So let's go deeper together. I am here to activate neurodivergent women to play bigger and to show you that you are so capable of doing big things, and that if you value your own unique way and honor your own timing, you will learn to receive your boldest desires and so much more. In my world, what makes you different is valued, celebrated, honored, and welcome. I welcome all who identify as female and non-binary folk in my Play Big Queens community. We believe in and support LGBTQIA+2S, Black Lives Matter, women's and pro-choice rights, and obviously intersectional identities, including disabilities, neurodivergence, and religious beliefs. Personally, I am pro-sex worker rights, pro-Palestinian liberation, against Islamophobia, and against anti-Semitism, and I'm also against any cult-like religions that use beliefs as an excuse to indoctrinate people into abusive, autocratic systems. Like many neurodivergent people, we have big hearts and a strong sense of social justice around here. You are encouraged to stay and play in our Play Big Queen community if you share these values. For those who find the word queen does not resonate, perhaps because of imperial associations, the Play Big Self archetype can take any form, and the invitation and activation remains the same. To learn to embody your Play Big Self, to operate from love instead of fear, to go on a play big journey in community because you know that no play big queen can truly play big alone. To decide to cultivate the courage to use your voice, unmask, reclaim, embrace, and embody your brilliance, and create a life and business that works with the unique way that you work. Through this work, you will come to know the truth of your brilliance deeply. And as you come to know your authentic self, more and more will begin to open up for you. Knowing your unique brilliance will lead to great success and true belonging. In this world, we take the pressure off and learn to step off the traditional path so you can blaze your own trail. My mission is to get you motivated, inspired, and equipped to get into massive action and go on your very own Play Big journey. My mission is to empower at least 10,000 women to fully step into their Play Big self by offering healing, transformative, inclusive, and neurodiverse affirming coaching and content. Through innovative coaching programs, courses, and masterclasses, we provide the tools, support, sustainability, and community needed to help each woman embrace her unique path to confidence, success, and meaningful impact. If just 10,000 women with invisible disabilities and their allies were empowered with neurodiverse affirming and inclusive communication to express their unique brilliance, step into their authority and autonomy, and lead, the world would experience a profound shift towards inclusivity, innovation, and empathy. These women would break through societal limitations, modeling resilience, creativity, and strength of diversity. Their voices and perspectives, often shaped by unique experiences with challenges and perseverance, would redefine business leadership, inspire systemic change, and create spaces where diverse ways of thinking are not just accepted, but celebrated. Industries and communities would become more accessible and inclusive, with practices that honor varied ways of working, communicating, and achieving. This change would ripple into every area of life and society. Workplaces would become more adaptable, offering a culture of respect for individual strengths. Healthcare and education systems would improve, centering accessibility and compassion in their approaches, and policies would evolve to better support those with invisible challenges, benefiting society as a whole. So many women with so much potential are shrinking in the face of their own brilliance, just sitting on the sidelines, waiting for permission instead of getting in the game. The activation of the latent potential in these women, their empowerment, making them visible, would inspire others, reduce stigma around invisible disabilities, and encourage everyone to lead authentically. Their successes will light the way for countless more women to rise, creating a culture of true diversity where every person feels valued, included, and emboldened to contribute their brilliance and lead with it. If you know you are ready for more clarity, confidence, and you want to embody your play big self and be supported around creating the big vision for your life and business, then send me an email at info@playbigqueen.com telling me why this work is so important for you, and we can explore opportunities to work together and make your play big dreams a reality.